Hey, welcome to the Desi licious Den Dietitian on Demand. I show busy health seekers with credible science-backed strategies how simple it can be to eat for health, nourish mindfully, and thrive with confidence while enjoying ethnic cuisine. Now, as a dietitian, I'm always interested in what steps the government is taking to ensure that we're eating for health. So when the latest food guide was released for Canada this year, I was very intrigued. Statistics say that 34% of Canadians alter their meals according to the food guide. Naturally, it has to be a nice mix of balanced meals full of nutritional value. Now, the other section I automatically skip to is the one with recipes. As someone with her own food and recipe blog, it holds special interest. I thought this year's food guide would be more culturally inclusive in comparison to last year's version, which was published after a 12-year gap. But I am astonished to see how little diversity it holds. Canada is a beautiful country, warm and welcoming. It doesn't just claim to be multicultural, it truly is in all its essence. Why then is the most read document produced by the federal government not culturally relevant for ethnic minorities? So a couple of Middle Eastern dishes made the cut this year, but I was really surprised to see only one vegetable curry and no other ethnic meals. Desis make up 5.6% of Canada's population. So many of us live here. How is there no mention of a classic dal or a tandoori chicken or even a staple like chana chaat in the food guide? All of these are nourishing, flavorful and full of nutrients. Now, there were consultations carried out prior to the publishing of the food guide, but one thing these engagements lacked was an introduction to cultural cuisines or ethnic foods. How does the government ensure equal participation if there is no mention of foods or meals from minority cultures? Granted, the food guide is translated into a number of different languages, including Urdu and Hindi, but that's not enough to capture South Asians' attention. If foods and meals pertaining to said languages do not exist in the food guide, then it would be of little interest to them. There are so many questions that I keep thinking about. For example, what will the next food guide be like? If it's culturally diverse, which hopefully it will be, how does the government encourage Western Canadians to try healthy diets originating from other cultures? This is why there needs to be a better line of communication between government-led projects, the public and civil society. After all, we're the ones consuming foods according to our culture. Shouldn't our participation count more? Now, civil society is a powerful mechanism for outreach to the most disenfranchised and disempowered in our society. Health campaigns at a local level, taking a concerted effort to reach vulnerable groups and engaging those who are already invested in their local communities, can all arguably have more impact than direct action from on high. The food guide does say it's culturally relevant. Observing the lack of ethnic flavours, does it just mean Western Canadian traditions? Let's take the example of an aubergine, also known as eggplant. It's a good source of soluble fiber, low in cholesterol, and contains almost no sodium. In South Asian communities, the fruit, yes, aubergine is a fruit, contrary to popular belief, is often considered tasteless. Now, if served in typical Western fashion, grilled with just a light seasoning of salt and pepper, majority of Desis will reject even the faintest notion of finding it delicious. However, the same ingredient transformed in a bengan bharta, a scrumptious concoction of aubergine, chilies, mustard seeds, onions, tomatoes and garlic, will be more well received. We know that Canadian South Asians are at a heightened risk of chronic diseases. A huge chunk of our healthcare budget is spent on treatment, which is a strain on the economy and the overall quality of life of the community. Even then, there are no official committees to tackle this issue by devising culturally inclusive food policies and nutritional guidelines. Many South Asians remain doubtful of the Western idea of a balanced diet by deeming it as bland or boring. If there was a proper advisory group that would create culturally appropriate resources to help translate nutritional guidelines and also cater to Desi taste buds. Now hold your horses. I understand action led by experts who inform government policy should remain the core of decision making, but it is vitally important that those being targeted, in the case of the food guide, the public through civil society organizations, have the opportunity to influence nutritional guidelines. This bottom-up health policy making already has significant advocates, including the World Health Organization, whose 2017 paper, Civil Society in Health, should act as a roadmap for the upcoming versions of the food guide. People are generally more prone to adapt to a diet they can relate to. As a dietitian, I always encourage people to listen to their bodies, do their homework, and enjoy food that is not only healthy but also delicious. This is precisely the reason I decided to devise my own Desi meal plan. It includes recipes that are delicious, nourishing, and have all the South Asian feels. It can be easily scheduled around busy lifestyles and reflects healthy eating, evidence-based principles, and it certainly isn't bland or boring. Now, Canada's food guide is not perfect, as there is definitely significant room for improvement. Yes, the government is moving in the right direction by taking positive steps. However, in order to motivate more folks from ethnic minority groups to embrace a healthy diet, we need policies, recommendations, and resources which are also culturally inclusive. We must also begin to consider the means of effecting change in concert with civil society, rather than solely relying on top-down action. And by doing so, we will be able to create a food guide that is truly inclusive and representative of Canadian society and not persona non grata. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up or leave me a comment. I'd love to know what diet and nutrition related topics you want me to dive into next. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.